Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 2 of Beneath the Surface, an A&G Concrete Pools podcast. It is my pleasure today to be joined by professional designer Jason Baran. Jason, how are you today?
I'm pretty good. Good to be here.
Glad to hear it. We're excited to have this conversation. Obviously, we had episode 1 with Travis, got a big overarching picture, and I think today it's going to be a great opportunity to dive a little deeper on the design side, see your own experiences, see how you've seen things evolve and sort of where we stand now. So I think the best place to start is probably at the beginning. How did you initially become a part of the A&G team?
It was wild. I was actually playing softball on the A&G softball team, and Travis and I just had a friendship. And a couple years went by, and a position came open, and he offered it to me. And I was hesitant at first because I'd never done pool design before. I've always been in sales, but it's a sales job, but it's also design. So I took a leap of faith 15 years ago, and here we are today,
Did you feel like there was a certain point of time, because as you mentioned there, you didn't know right away. Did you feel 2 years in, 3 years in, you're like, okay, this is the spot for me. I found something unique here?
I think it was 5 years in,
Okay.
and that was economically driven. Because when I started, it was at the bottom of the last recession where there was no equity, that people couldn't get loans, there was no cash, stock markets were crashed. It was a very, very challenging uphill climb to get to where it kind of made sense.
In an environment like that, because I think in a lot of times it's those larger lulls that we really see the great companies kind of shine through. What did you feel like was advantageous on the A&G side when you're having someone who it's a bigger investment because maybe their stock portfolio is not the same, because their investments haven't matured in the way they expected? Was there something that you could always lean on with the A&G brand and the A&G as a company and the longevity they have to say, this is what I can offer you that maybe no one else can?
Yeah, I mean, people were going out of business left and right, and we were just steady. And we were always known as a quality builder. And people know that. And we still are very, very heavily involved in the community with various charity efforts and events that we do, and networking, and just meeting people, whether it's business leaders or people that need help in the community. So it's just been a very steady process as far as a company is concerned, and people knew that. And they were also a lot tighter with their money. So if they were going to sign that contract, they wanted to make sure they were going to get a contractor that wasn't going to go out of business the next day or halfway through the build. So I think that really carried us through.
And it's a fantastic point there. And I think one that in a lot of ways is still evident today. I think when we take a look at the current marketplace, and there is, maybe to not the same degree, but still a lot of uncertainty economically, a lot of people are doing, I would say, more vetting than ever and sort of interviewing more companies and really trying to figure out who they're getting in business with. How have you seen those same kind of lessons and those same kind of truths hold? Here we are 15 years later in a completely different world, in a world that's got so much more online, so many different ways to sort of be introduced, even a show like this. How do you think people have changed in their approach, and how do you think people are still the same as they were about a decade and a half ago?
There's obviously your price buyer that doesn't care who the company is, what they do in the community, how long they've been in business. It's just, I got to get this for my family for the lowest price humanly possible, and I'm willing to take that risk. And I totally get that. I respect it. I understand it. And that's cool, right? Like that there's a market for everybody out there. But once you get into, a higher level and you're really looking to have a quality construction built, I do think those people are taking a lot more time. I'm maybe not interviewing 10 different builders, but really looking at websites, looking at social media content, looking at likes, looking at Google reviews, putting all those together to say, this is a really informed decision for a really quality company like A&G.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of been the floor that's been raised in a lot of ways. And I do think there are still those companies out there where you may not feel as though they have a big online presence, but you feel comfortable with the individual, and that's enough for some people like you're talking about. But I think in a lot of ways, people want to see not only the work that you've done, but the time that you've done it, the breadth of projects that you have, sort of what's the variety as we look at sort of some of the projects around us here. We have projects of sort of the nth degree of complexity, multiple water features, raised spas, waterfront properties, items that not everyone can build. And at the same time, we are so secure and so efficient in building those essential pools, those 12 by 24s, those more accessible projects. I'm curious on your end, because you have so many years of design experience under your belt. What do you think are the same things that hold true, whether it's a simple or complex project? And what do you think, hey, this one's going to be a bigger scale, this one's going to be more features, I've got to approach this a little differently?
So it's funny because our motto is simple to sensational. And that's like the best word grouping or whatever you want to call it, right? Because I can sit with somebody that says, listen, I just want a small body of water. I'm very private. It's just me and my wife. There's no kids. I don't need anything fancy. And I've got a solution for them. I sit with people that say, I have 17 grandkids and I need water flying everywhere. I need safety. I need fun. I want them over every weekend grilling and barbecuing and spending family time. Immediately light bulb goes off. I know what to do. I have people that say, I'll never get in the pool, but I want the nicest pool in the neighborhood. So it's all over the map. But we can tailor, because simple to sensational, we tailor to each specific homeowner, each specific situation. And after 15 years and thousands of designs, it's become kind of second nature.
And I think that's a great segue, because I know when I first joined on, I got to sit behind you and sit at your desk and watch you design. And it was just such a mind-boggling process to see someone go from what is essentially a blank blueprint all the way to a finalized design, and sometimes a matter of 20 minutes, 30 minutes. It's just a speed and a pace that I don't think most companies could maintain, let alone most individuals. When did you feel like you were really in that kind of creative flow where you had sort of seen all the pieces, you knew how everything sort of fit and interlocked, and then depending on what your conversation was with someone, you could really quickly recognize exactly what they were going for?
A couple years when I entered into the builder market. So when I was not just residential only, I got into the builder market where people are building new homes in a community or whatever, and they want a pool build at the same time. So I had access to more people at a faster pace, and the timelines were a lot faster. I had to meet them on day one, design it on day two, possibly sell it on day three. And that still remains today. And that's kind of what really sped it all up. You have access to more people, and honestly, more people from all over the world. And that's the coolest part is I got people from, I always, when I talk to people, I talk about what stage of life they're in right now. Because my current pool was designed at the stage of life when I had a 1-year-old and a brand new son that just popped out. So I have 2 kids. So I designed my pool around them, and now they're 11 and 9, and that pool is not, it's still very usable, and we use it every single night, but it was tailored to them. So now I sit with everybody and talk about what stage of life you're in. And they really sit back, and they're like, wow, that's an interesting question from a pool guy. And I'm like, well, it matters, because are you just flipping this house in 5 years? Are you designing for you and your family? Are you designing for the next buyer? How are you going to use it? Are you an Olympic swimmer? Do you have 17 grandkids? Like, these things matter. And the funny thing is sometimes I'll do 3 rectangle pools in a row in the same week for 3 different families. And one will have water features, one will be a very small body, and the next one will be for 17 grandkids. So it's just really funny how it goes. But asking those types of questions was definitely when I entered the builder market, with more access to more people from more areas and more countries and more states with more complex situations. That's really when it started flowing.
And I imagine that had to be so exciting on your end. I mean, you kind of got to really hone in your craft on the residential market for those first few years, and then to be able to have so many different perspectives come in, so many different life stages like you're talking about, where it's a new challenge each and every time. I don't think you would say you're ever sort of in a cycle of repeating the same idea. You're giving that time and care and that consideration to every client individually, and having those conversations of understanding where someone is in their journey, where their family is in their journey. I think a lot of times we've got people, particularly moving into the builder communities, that have never lived in Florida, have never lived in a place where a pool made sense for their family. So it's so exploratory for them, and it's such a new thing, and you get to sort of guide them along that path. I have to imagine that was a lot of fun.
It's every day. Every day it's fun because, and I don't know if I'm unique in my process because I'm not in other people's or other pool designers' processes, but I have been told that the process is a breath of fresh air from many, many, many homeowners I work with, or that it's really I've made it really easy on them, because it's not what they're used to when they go through a sales or a design process. They're used to being told, hey, you need this, or I think this, or I think that. Mine's completely opposite. It's, what do you want? How can I tailor this around you? What stage of life are you in right now? What is the reason for you building a pool? Is it for your family? Because that's what really matters, right? Is the design for them, not what I think or what I've seen or what I like. It's not about that. So it is fun every single day. And, sometimes you get some real tough guys in there, and they don't want to give you any information. So that becomes part of the process too, is to let them know that I'm not a threat. I'm not trying to enforce my will or what I want to sell you or design. I just want to design what's right for you and your family at this stage for the next 5-10 years, whatever.
And I think that's a credit to you to be able to recognize that in a world where I think so many people are caught on a hard sell, and so many people want to have this notion of being able to craft a message or craft a product in a way to where even if someone's not quite bought in, they're still going to make that final sale because they've done this kind of magician's trick, if you will. And you're completely on the other side. You're so transparent. You're so open with them. And I think that's something that holds throughout the entire sales team, is this level of honesty, this level of genuine interaction where our end goal is to create the right waterscape for you and your family. It's not to sell the biggest ticket price. It's not because we want to put the newest, shiniest feature in your backyard for our own sake and our own materials. And I think coming to it with that intent and having that be a through line of everyone's projects of this is the right thing in the right moment for those people, I think that speaks to who we are as a company as a whole, and sort of how we always are willing to put that client first and craft our experiences around what it is that they want to experience from that backyard.
That's correct. And you hit the nail on the head. They're not used to that. They're used to being hard sold, or how can I get this from 80,000 to 120, and it's not like that for us. It's just, I will do the most simple to sensational, right? If the simple works for you and that checks your boxes, awesome. Let's do it. And if sensational with slides and water features all over the place and fire pits and stuff, awesome. Let's do it. It's just, we don't make you feel a certain way if you spend a lot or if you spend a little. You know what I'm saying? It's the same across the board.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that immediately sort of jumped out at me when I first joined the team is you would think in a world where projects can get to ranges of $200,000, $300,000 that those people would get somehow some extra TLC that came with that. And I think throughout the price range, even if you're at the simplest of pools and you've just decided to pick the most essential package, you're still going to get that project management. You're still going to get a personal designer. You're still going to get the attention of the entire team that we have in our office. Sort of all near 100 employees are going to be dedicated in some way, shape, or form to your project. And that's not something that changes because you pay more. And I think that consideration is something that's unique about us and something that probably can't be said for everyone else. So one thing I am quite interested about with you, because for a period of time you were so exclusively a builder designer, because the volume was so heavy, I think particularly during those COVID years, that 2020 to 2022, 2023 range, there was such an influx of demand. As we've seen that kind of settle, you've gotten the opportunity to get back into the residential space here and there. How has it been returning to that process and sort of bringing all of those reps that you got with the builders to a process that's inherently a little slower and something you can take a little more time with?
It's definitely helped a lot, because now you get to slow down and spend more quality time, have quality conversations, have quality visits. You're not a robot, to where you have a script and you just go there and you talk about pumps and filters and salt and then let me go get a design together for you. It definitely helped with all those repetitions to go back out, and it's not the same process, but the intent of the meeting is the same, is to get the information to put the best design together for that particular family. And my goal from the day I started was, as much as I want to be every person's friend and the likable guy and all that, that's great. But what I wanted to be most when I walked out of the anybody's home was they look at each other and say, I have confidence in that guy. That's really the only thing that's ever been in my head, is I want them to know that if they do commit to A&G and me, that they can have the confidence in me and my company that we know what we're doing. Not that we talked about fishing or we talked about commonalities to get, kind of break the ice and stuff like that, but was more to, kind of separate myself as like when I leave, that's the guy.
That confidence is, I think, so evident in your process, but I think it's also been a great thing that you've instilled in the other designers as well, that when we talk to Travis, I would say the same sort of thing. It always comes back to the product and the production. And if you have that dialed in and you have the ability to take that vision in someone's head and through your unique process, whether it's sort of showing them different photos of past projects and seeing what it is that they like and they don't like, whether they have a really concrete vision coming in and it's just your job to realize that in the perfect amount of detail, that's sort of where everything has to come back to. If you're not able to create that product, if you're not able to hold that standard, then I think it's hard to ask someone to make the investment that we ask them to make. We know that we sit on the higher end of the marketplace. We know that it's a commitment to come aboard with us. It's not something that you could say, oh, if it doesn't go well, it doesn't really matter. And I think we have an understanding of the pressure that comes with that. And at the same time, we have an understanding of what the expectations are. And we have to say nothing less than the absolute best of our ability is okay here. We've had someone who's committed to us, both financially, verbally, contractually. It is now on us to be able to create exactly what it is that they desire, perhaps even to a level of detail and a level of expertise that they might not even expect.
Or understand.
That's a great point.
Or understand all the stuff that goes behind the scenes to come up with that. But another thing you want to keep in your head is when you leave and you're sitting down and you're hoping that email gets a reply or the phone call back to say we're ready to go with you, you realize that family is investing an incredible amount of money, maybe the most money they've ever spent into their backyard for their family. And once that thing gets built and there's water in it, there's years and years and years of children and cannonballs and barbecues and family gatherings and all these things that happen. It's more than just selling a car or selling a couch or selling an item. It's like it's actually gets used for many years for really good quality family time. So that means a lot too,
Yeah, and we talk about that a lot when we're sort of creating the marketing presentations and the brand materials about more than just a swimming pool. These spaces as a whole become canvases for dreams in a lot of ways and canvases for future memories, to where we know that the product we're creating is something that has a 15-year, 20-year longevity to it. That's times where children grow from the ages of 1 to 21 and become full-fledged adults, where you have new members added to your family, where you have grandkids come in, where the family expands in ways you might not even imagine. Being able to have a space where you can always go back to and you can always find that solitude and have kind of a refuge, to where my family always enjoys the spot because the time and the consideration that our designer took, whether that be yourself, whether that be another member of the design team, they had the foresight to say, you're at this stage of life right now, these things are going to be great, but if you've got someone on the way, if you've got something that you might think might be coming down the line, let's make this addition. And it might not make sense right now, but in 5-6 years, where you're sort of in the prime of enjoying the swimming pool, it's going to make all the sense in the world. And again, I think it's a credit to you guys and the thought that you give.
The team that we have, that we've been able to put together, and our process, it's just never been about making a sale. Mm-hmm. It's just not. It's always been about putting the best design with the most thought and the most intention and the care and concern for this particular family that's in front of me. And if they take it, awesome, let's do it. And if they don't, I respect you, I respect your decision. Mm-hmm. Don't take it personally. But it's never been about numbers. It's never been about just making a sale for the sake of making a sale. It's never been about gimmicks or let me throw some free stuff at you to get you to sign today, like you get everywhere in your life, right? Never been about coupons. It's just been about doing the right thing always. Mm-hmm. And I sometimes I'm in the middle of a meeting and I'm like, you know what I love the most about working at A&G? And they're like, what? And I'm like, I'm going to be walking through Publix 2 years from now and you're going to see me. and you're not gonna punch me in the face. You're gonna you're gonna shake my hand and be like, dude, man, the pool's awesome. Kids love it. I mean, I've got story after story, professional athletes, baseball players that I'll run into in grocery stores that are giving me hugs, and so it's really, really cool. Just you have access to so many people, and I run into people all the time, and it's always positive. It's just awesome.
And that's a credit to you to be able to make those connections. But I think more and more so, it is such a relationship-based business. It is creating that sense of faith between a customer and a designer. It is creating a sense of trust between the customer and a company for who they are, and knowing that that company is not going anywhere. We're coming up on 40 years now of being within the community, and you'd be hard-pressed to find any business that's been in business that long, particularly with the same collective of individuals who have been there the entire time. I mean, you look at Travis and it's more than 2 decades. You look at someone like Frank in the sales department. I mean, he's been there.
Three
he's been there near since the beginning. So it's that longevity. And I think that matters. And equally as important to just having that number of years, though, is the experience that comes with that and the way that that's been passed down. And I'd love to ask you, as sort of getting to now one of the elder statesmen of the design team, how's it been bringing in sort of individuals on your own accord, people that you saw a vision in the same way Travis saw in you, and sort of inspiring them to sort of take designs in their own direction? Because we've got a team of designers where everyone's award-winning. Everyone's been recognized at the highest level for the work that they've created. How's that been as sort of a mentor for them and sort of bringing them along the journey that you've been on yourself?
You want to bring the best out of them. So first, you don't really teach them anything for the first beginning, just to see what they can absorb and what they can learn, and then obviously you start giving them little tidbits and this and that and the other. But ultimately, the process of not necessarily design, but sales can be emotional sometimes. You put your heart out there, and you're honest, and you're well intentioned, and you care, and then they only care about the number. And so you got to be able to understand that and navigate that. So that's like one of the little tidbits I give anybody new is don't get emotional. Even though your heart is in the right place and your mind is in the right place, and you know you're going to do the right thing, and you know the end product's going to be great, and you know they're going to be happy with it. It's just people make buying decisions for different reasons. But ultimately, every designer that we have has their own inspiration. Some of them do a lot of research online and look at pool designs from all over the world. They do it every week. They do it every day. Other people actually go out in the field and go to some of the model parks and look at our builders, other builders, things like that, just for, oh man, never thought about that. Constantly honing their craft, things like that. From a mentor perspective, it's interesting to watch one of the guys like struggle on a topic or struggle on a situation, be able to walk in and be like, hey, why don't you try this perspective, right? And then they do it, and then you can see the confidence level just go, and they're like, man, I wish I thought of that. But it's been very enjoyable to watch these guys move up in the ranks and come up. But at the end of the day, they also have to want it. They have to want to learn. It's just like anywhere in life. You learn from your elders. You learn from the people before you. You learn from the people that have the experience. You got to latch on. You got to ask questions. You got to challenge. You got to be challenged, and that's what we do here in a very positive way.
And I think the environment that's been created, both in the company culture as a whole, but particularly in the design department, is one of that challenging with the notion of bettering one another. I think it always comes back to that intention of, we want to have every designer be as great as they possibly can be. And as someone who had a brief sort of tenure on the design team, I know that you guys were so good at always trying to get that next percentage out of someone, where you thought you got to a place where you're like, hey, this is great. And you would come in, or Bobby would come in, or Jordan would come in, or Dave or Frank, and say, hey, what about this edition? Did you make this consideration? Your customer told you this. Is that being accounted for? And I think it is that continual sort of chipping away at the stone and refining what that sculpture looks like that makes us all so much better. That gets us to the point where we look at the projects around us, the projects that we've done completely. Travis spoke about it. He thinks that we're designing the best pools that we've ever created and constructing them. I would say, being now sort of this proxy historian of every picture that's come through A&G, I don't think the pools have ever been at this level. This, not necessarily from a complexity standpoint, because you could always point to that and say, well, it has more water features than it ever did before. It's a bigger pool than we've ever built before. Those things are nice to point at, but I think when we look at composition, when we look at usability, when we look at something like uniquity, where this pool has never been seen, whether you have someone from a different part of the world who's pulling in a Dubai-based influence, or you have someone who's lived on the West Coast all their life and been in the hills and wanted to replicate that now here in Florida, there are these projects that I think stand on their own as these moments in time of, this was exactly what this space needed, exactly what the client needed right here and right now. And then those projects still age so well. And I think, again, it comes back to you guys never allowing yourselves to feel like you've learned it all.
It's a lot more complex than it looks. And it takes a lot of layers, a lot of thought, thinking about light locations, thinking about light coverage, thinking about skimmer locations, thinking about return locations, well, getting the right circulation in the water so whatever surface debris falls on it makes it to the skimmer. Thinking about sun shelf locations actually being in the sun and not under a tree or under close to the house where it's going to be in the shade half the time. Umbrella sleeve locations where you can actually fit 2 chairs on a sun shelf, bubbler locations, water feature locations, spas, flush, elevated, or infinity. What makes sense for this particular person? Should it be in the back of the yard? Should it be closest to the lanai because there's a TV there? There's so many things to think about when designing a pool. It's not just a hole with water in it.
And how do you feel like that has changed over the years since your original start date? Because I can't imagine those were things that you even had to think about. I mean, just thinking about how outdoor spaces have evolved from being, you have your interior, you have your house, and then you have your pool. I think in a lot of these cases now, there's not really a defining line between the indoors and outdoors. And you guys do such a great job at making that space cohesive. How have those considerations had to change for you over time to where you've had to introduce new elements into your design process because it's become more prevalent for a customer, because a home style has changed, or because architecture has changed?
It just kind of evolved. I can't say it was architects or anything I saw online or the team. We like to push boundaries. It's just who we are. We don't accept the standard. We go that next level. We like to have those deeper conversations and put together a more complex pool that's completely tailored, even down to the return lines for a homeowner. So I can't say it was shaped by the industry, the market, anything. It's just kind of something culture-wise. We just naturally did. It just made sense to us.
And I think your point there is such a good one about it not only being sort of in competition with your local competitors, which is always going to be an element of this, but being in competition with yourself and being sort of willing to elevate yourself and have that self-realization of, it's time for us to evolve as a company. It's time for us to sort of realize what the market is telling us and realize what these clients are telling us. And I think particularly when you look at the evolution of the past sort of 5, even 10 years of where we were in 2015 to where we are here in 2025, who a pool buyer is and who our buyer is such a different person than it was at that point. And again, we go back to the considerations that people are making. I think you've had this experience now more and more so where people are coming to you with these fully realized ideas, whereas at a point in time, they were coming to you and they had never thought about a pool before. And it was their first exploratory thing. And to give them a choice of 3 options and say, here's where we can go. We can make little adjustments here or there, but this is generally what your backyard's going to look like. Maybe that was satiating at the time. And I think now the expectations have grown. I think people's worldviews have grown with something like a social media where you can see any part of the world and you can get inspiration from any part of the world. To be able to take all of that and to continue to evolve and to stay on the forefront, I think it's just an incredible thing to be able to do.
The key to that is freedom. We are not put in a box. Travis has started off in design, in sales, and he was allowed to flourish. And I mean, he was, we called it a book program where he had A, B, or C packages for a long time. And then I think he got bored with it and wanted to really expand. So he went down his own path, and then I came on board. And you always want to do right by each individual family or person that you're in front of and spend the time. It also comes with ownership. Like when I first started, the way the company worked, it was I would design it and sell it, and then I'd turn it in. Mm-hmm. And then it was everybody else's problem, right? So someone else would do the permitting, someone else would do the engineering, someone else would obviously build it and manage it and all that. And then if anything popped up, any questions along the way, it would come back. But now we weren't worried about return locations because it was a standard. We weren't worried about skimmer or light locations that we talked about earlier because it was a standard. You didn't have to think about it. Mm-hmm. But as time has gone on, as the designers take more ownership of their project, they didn't want to just slap it on the desk, including myself. I didn't want to just throw it on the desk and let somebody else put things in places that they didn't have a meeting with my homeowner. Mm-hmm. So as time goes on and you get more experience and the guys get more experience, they take more ownership of their project and they care about their paperwork more. They care about locations of things more. They're the ones that had the conversations directly with the family. So how could somebody in the office know?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So as time has gone on, you take more ownership, and the process works. When you own your entire project and you put your heart on it, and this is what I did for Luke, this is what I did for Travis, this is what I did for Mrs. Smith, whatever it was, and you own it from A to Z, it's a really good process.
And how do you feel like that empowers you as a designer? Because that has to be a culture created from the top down. And to your point, I think Travis has done a fantastic job of giving you guys the opportunity to be full owners of those projects. Do you feel like you would have this anywhere, or do you feel like this is an environment unique to A&G to where it is something where you can be with that customer from beginning to 2 years later at the Publix, asking them about how much they still love their pool?
I can tell you without a doubt, if I didn't have the freedom, I would not be here. And that's something Travis and I laughed about all these years. And when he offered me the position, I told him no. I've been self-employed my whole life from 17 years old until 30. And he said, this is not a normal position. You're going to have freedom. You don't punch a clock, at 8 and check out at 5. You're going to have long days that go till 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and you're going to have half days where you're done at 12. It's just it flows, ebbs and flows every single day. It's different. You might have weekend hours sometimes. You might not. You might have to meet people after hours or very, very early in the morning because of their schedule or whatever, or you might not. But he told me specifically, he said, I need somebody that can operate independently with the tools that A&G offers. So that was what appealed to me. I could not go to another place that said, oh, well, you can only sell up to this much, or you can only design up to this level. It just wouldn't work. It wouldn't work for my personality. It wouldn't work for my growth plans. It wouldn't work for what I'm trying to do for my career. And that's what the position did. We laugh about it because I said, how the heck did you hire me? How could you have hired me? I said, I don't do well with, somebody standing over me telling me you got to do this, 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 and this. And he goes, that's the position. He goes, if you can operate independently under the brand, that's what I'm looking for. And that's kind of what we found in all of the designers, which is really cool.
Yeah, and I think you could probably even extend that out to the entirety of our in-office team. I mean, a lot of those individuals were in such a unique situation as kind of a mid-sized business to have 100 people, and that's no small number, and I won't dare pretend that it is, but we're at a scale to where we're large enough to have individual departments, but we're small enough to where those departments are often 1 or 2 people. And it is very much kind of this individual ownership of what your department does and what your tasks are, whether that be yourself in the design team, whether it be someone like Heather in permitting, whether it be someone like DJ with scheduling or myself with marketing. We're given a sense of freedom and a sense of trust at the end of the day that we're going to be good stewards of the A&G brand and the A&G company that's been built up, and that in operating in our own interests, we are operating in the A&G interest as a whole.
100%.
And I think that alignment is so important.
That's why you see all the creativity you have.
Exactly.
You can do whatever you want. He's not telling you, come here at 8, check out at 5. You have to shoot this many videos a week, this many videos a month. He trusts that you are going to be well-intentioned and do what's best for the company, but be free to explore your creative side.
And that relationship is so mutually beneficial because having that freedom does give you that time to explore and does give you that opportunity to try new things and go outside the box a little and not get caught up in what might be the industry standard right now. Because I think it's so important, regardless of what we're doing, to constantly try and find that next thing. Again, to circle back to what we talked about with design, but it might be efficiencies in scheduling. I mean, we're at a place now where we're doing builds in 6 weeks and 7 weeks, and I don't think a lot of companies would think that would be feasible. But again, to have that breath of freedom, to be able to say, well, what if we move some things around? What if we tried to really plot out a scheduling timeline? What if we were to able to graph out 400 projects that we did over the past 2 years and say, this has created a clear template from which we can start to improve upon? I don't think that would be possible if we had someone as an owner who's trying to micromanage every element, who's trying to constantly look over the shoulder. So it's a full credit to Travis to be able to delegate in the way that he has and to be able to trust the individuals that he's brought on, because he brings everyone on personally. Again, the beauty of a mid-sized business, he has a hand in all of those hires and all those elements, and he's still so attentive. It's not that there's freedom and we don't get checked in on, but he's always willing to have our opinions be heard, and I think that's allowed us to elevate the company as a whole.
I was going to use the word micromanage. if you micromanage pretty much anybody, but let's just talk about where my world is design. I mean, you're basically in a box. And if you put a designer in a box, if you put any employee in a box, the biggest they're going to get is to the top of the box. And then they hit the ceiling. There's no growth after that. So that's the beauty of, I think, all the departments here is even permitting. Heather, figure out your own process, what works best for you. Develop your relationships within the building departments. Now she can call anybody at any building department at any time, usually a 1 to 2 ring pickup. There's a relationship built there. Turnaround time is faster. Same with engineers that we have, relationships built with that. It just works across the whole company to have the freedom to be expressive and not be put in a box.
So now we sit here, 2025. You feel like you made the right choice, Jason?
Obviously. Obviously. It's been a fun ride, man. Like, it's, I never thought 15 years would fly by like that. And it's just been fun. I'm not offering anybody something they don't want. Everybody genuinely wants our product. So it's just an industry that's really enjoyable to operate in. I mean, obviously, you get some that aren't as enjoyable, but that happens. Different expectations, I guess, from different experiences. Very few are negative, but the negative ones usually spawn out of prior experiences. So they have an expectation that we're going to treat them a certain way, or we're going to try to oversell them extra stuff, and you got to just break those barriers down and let them know we're not the bad guy.
Well, I appreciate you giving us the time today to have this conversation. It's always fun to chat with you, to be able to dive deep in a setting like this and sort of bring your story to an audience that I know you've personally had experience with when we've done interviews in the past and people resonating with that. And I think it's great to you. I mean, it's been fantastic to have you join us again for this episode. It's been lovely to have you here. We're excited to continue bringing more guests and more content your way. So listen to us on Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Audible, and feel free to watch the video stream on YouTube as well. And we'll see you next time.